Good.
Yeah.
Good.
But from what I can gather, it's a lot about peeling back the filters of what we're conditioned to do to try to find a better connectivity, like you talked about.
Yeah.
But then you were saying that there is no real objective self, and I'm wondering is there an objective? Is the objective self your soul? And what is the purpose?
That's
of
a good question.
Yeah.
In the old days, the people who translated Buddhism in the 19th century and so on, they were kind of tended to be wanting to rebel against Christianity and sort of part of the Enlightenment thing and rebel against religion. So when they saw the Buddhist doctrine of selflessness, they said, "Oh, great!" Then they translated soullessness, But in the Heart Sutra, for example, if you know any of these things,
He will.
well, yeah, you'll see that if you're going to go into the things that are lacking, selflessness is just the most spectacular one because it's a shock, it has a shock value.
Yeah.
But as I say, what it means is lack of that rigid, fixated, absolute self. And it doesn't mean lack of relational self, because who is it who understands the lack of the absolute self is the relational self. Who is it who becomes enlightened or reborn is the relational self.
Yeah.
But the point is we don't live as relational selves, we live as an isolated, rigid self. So it's helping us break that shell of that identity. But the point is that when they get into the negational mode, they say noselessness, eyelessness, earlessness, tonguelessness, bodilessness, everything, or groundlessness, earthless, everything is lessness, because everything reified as a rigid identity, is, for example, Buddha, and the later Buddhist scientists, what we call inner scientists, they rejected the existence of atoms long ago. Not that there are not entities that aggregate into material objects, but atom literally means not divisible from the Greek. So it's like the indivisible particle, because the human being wants to feel secure. It's like having an origin. There's going to be something that you can't take apart, that's sort of the solid thing at the base of the world, so that you're not just going to fall into the vastness of space, And so the infinite divisibility of matter was argued by Buddha and proclaimed as an empirical discovery thousands of years ago against the usual Indian physicist, the Vaisheshikas, who said that atoms there is an indivisible atom, for example, And so atomlessness would mean that there's no indivisible atom. It comes apart under analysis. Whatever you analyze, it disappears under analysis. But we still relationally have something that we can usefully think of as an atom, and have a table of elements and do that and so on, just as long as we don't get hung up on the idea that it's an absolute thing. You follow?
Yeah.
So the self is the same as that. Now the soul, so therefore they made a big fuss about no soul because they wanted to be secular and they wanted to be not afraid of hell, which the preachers were frightening them with, in case they didn't sign up and didn't have the right passport, the Christian passport. And so that was nice to have no soul. But from the Buddhist point of view, we do have a soul. If you take the soul to mean the subtle self, the personality self that relates to the five senses and the coarse embodiment, as they would call it, that they would call that the coarse self. And the thing that is sort of in the heart center is made of subtle energy and connects with subtle matter. Like, for example, when you have a dream, what kind of body do you have in a dream? When you see a vision in a dream, with what eye do you see it? You see it with a sort of, it's my favorite line in The Matrix. When Neo goes into his first training session with Morpheus in The Matrix, he's standing there with his suit on, and it's all white space around him, and he says to Morpheus, he says, "Well, what is this? If this is all just a computer program, what is this?" And he's sort of in leather jacket, and Morpheus says, "It's your digital residual self-image." So you have a digital in your brain, residual self-image in a dream. But that is mobilizing the energies of this very subtle self. And that's what goes after death and came before conception into the embryo, the zygote, and became a body according to Buddhism. And so therefore we do have this soul. And it also is a relational soul. It's not a fixed, unchanging thing. But it goes on forever, unfortunately. It just doesn't extinguish itself. And therefore, there's no way out of life.
Never.
You can't get out of it. Therefore, you have to be infinitely concerned with the quality of life. It has to be happy. you and that of others. And it becomes a Buddha soul, a Buddha nature, or a Buddha soul. Ultimately, when you become a Buddha someday, at the end of your evolutionary thing, which is not the end, because then a Buddha incarnates infinitely to help other beings. That they say. So we got a long time to have classes.